Hello and welcome to another weekly update. As you can see, I am not in my study. I'm in a hotel room for reasons that will become clear as this weekly update plays out. So plenty of things to talk about this week, plenty going on. And the first is that Microsoft have come out with some new templates for Teams. Now, what's this all about? Well, obviously Teams gives you loads of flexibility in what you can do when you create a new team. You can add all the tabs across the top to bring in additional content and information from different parts of Office 365. So you can bring in Power BI, you can bring in SharePoint, Excel, third-party applications and integrations. You can bring in bots and you can enhance the experience in a number of different ways. But you need to know that you can do that. You need to know that that's the thing you want to do, and you need to be proactive in going out and finding it. And what I guess what Microsoft have realized or they've been told or they've seen is there's a number of cases where people work in the same way when they're using a channel, and therefore they can have some default behavior as part of a template. So when they create a team with a particular template, all that stuff is ready to go. One example is in healthcare. So healthcare, they call them huddles, and they're kind of groups of professionals gathered together for a very particular, talking about a particular thing or a particular situation. And they have very similar tools that they need to use each time. So I can't remember exactly, but it's something like some SharePoint lists, some Power BI, maybe some Excel, and they use those. They need those things each time. So rather than have them create a team from scratch and then have to add those things in, Microsoft said, well, actually, you could create a template and add those things in, and then every time you create a new team, those assets will automatically be put in for you, and that's cool and that's useful. The blog post Microsoft have put out is some guidance to developers on how to do that, how to package those things up, and really what it means. So just looking at it now. So so it uses Teams. These templates kind of allow all these different Office 365 things to be consumed, but it's using Teams as the kind of place where it all happens. And there's plenty of links at the bottom to getting started, to doing your own, and also downloading the sample app, which I talked about a couple of weeks ago, I think, for a sample Microsoft Teams app. So that's all good. It's interesting now to see Microsoft looking at how people are using Teams and then reacting. Previously, I guess, because nobody was using Teams because Teams wasn't written, they were kind of flying a little bit blind in terms of some of these additional capabilities, and it's good to see them filling them in now. Really good. Okay, on to a blog post that I did in the week. Now, if you live in the UK, then you'll know we've had some snow. If you don't know, if you don't live in the UK, that doesn't sound as big of a deal as it is. We don't get a lot of snow in the UK, so when we do get snow, it's a fairly big deal, and our infrastructure and our people are not well set up to suit and to deal with the snow. So it causes relatively more disruption and more chaos than it maybe ought to, or maybe might in other parts of the world. Since, I don't know, 2013, 2016, I think it's 2013. I wrote a blog post that I've put out every time it's snowed since, saying that collaboration tools like Skype for Business, like Microsoft Lync as it was at the time, mean that really there's kind of no excuse for the whole of the country to grind to a halt because people can't go to work. Working from home, it boggles my mind. In 2018, working from home is still a thing that amazes people, scares people, surprises people. They just don't think it can possibly be for them. Their employer won't let them. Their employer doesn't understand. There's so much that I take completely for granted now. The company I work for, Modality Systems, we're a UC company. It would be weird if we didn't do working from home and remote working and stuff. And so when it snows like this, we barely miss a heartbeat because we just keep working from home, and there's probably commercial advantage in that compared to other companies that literally stop production, stop work. And I get that not all jobs are jobs that can be done from home, but increasingly, there are jobs that can be done from home. And I don't think this is a technological problem, it's more of a culture problem. I did a different blog post this week and this year because actually I kind of thought about Teams a little bit, and it's interesting to me. Teams has added an extra layer onto that story. So previously Skype for Business gave us the tools. It gave us instant messaging, it gave us audio capabilities. It kept our lines of communication open. It meant we could talk to one another when we weren't physically in the same space. I think what Teams has done is added to that by making the kind of close collaboration and that interactive experience that you have when you have a group of people working on a problem together. It brings that and makes that work at distance. And that's really, it's not that there's newer or cooler technology. The technology is basically the same. An awful lot of Teams technology is based around and built on Skype. What's different is the presentation, the kind of the way it's packaged, but like the flow, the experience, the way those tools and that technology is assembled and presented to you enables you and kind of opens up to you this kind of ability to collaborate in a very natural way around documents and around resources, in a way that you do and you would if you were in the office, a group of people working together around a presentation, around a piece of code or whatever else it is. So new blog post from me about snow and why there's no reason really, if you've got something like Teams, there's even less reason to leave the house when it's snowing. Okay, what else? So also this week I put out some blog posts, a 3-part blog post series around building an FAQ bot. So using Azure, using QnAMaker, and the key thing I wanted to address here was you don't have to be a developer to do this, and this is part of a slightly wider story. I'm kind of I'm telling to anyone who will listen, and yeah, it's kind of around the world changing and bots becoming more and more of a thing, and we can talk about that. If you want to know, grab me, engage me in conversation, and I will bend your ear about why bots are the future and AI is the future. But let's not do that here. But I see a lot of people worrying because they don't know how to build a bot. A bot is a scary, complicated, robotic thing. How are they supposed to build one of those? AI is super complicated. How are they supposed to get into that world? And by the way, they're not a developer anyway, and they never really wanted to be. So what do they do? And this blog post series is really saying you don't need to be a developer to do some of this stuff. Microsoft have invested a lot of time and a lot of energy into making these tools really accessible and really almost like appliances that you don't need to do any development on. You take these pieces, these jigsaw pieces, and you plug them together, and they just sort of work. They work really well together, and you can plug together enough pieces to build a fully working bot that you can put onto your website, and which answers frequently asked questions using AI. So it does all that hard work of looking at the conversation and working out actually what was meant by the words, going and finding the right answer and giving it back. And you can do all that without writing any code at all. So I recorded the video showing you how you can do that in 10 minutes. It only takes 10 minutes to do. It takes 10 minutes if you go normal speed. You can go double speed and it takes 5 minutes, or you can take a little bit longer and take half an hour of it. But I'm also writing it up kind of step by step with screenshots as well. And so part 1 of 3, so the first part of that came out this week. Part 2 is also going to come out this week, probably by the time you see this, I would have thought, in which case I'll put it into the show notes, and then part 3 is going to come out on Monday. So if you're interested in building bots but you are not a programmer, then this might be for you. Even if you are a programmer and you don't know how to do this, it's worth looking at anyway, because it's a very good starting point, and then you can pick up the code and make it even cooler than it is, add extra features and stuff. So that's all good, and that's kind of what I've been working on in the evenings this week. So let's talk about why I'm in a hotel room and what's happening next week. So I am currently in London, which for reference is kind of 2.5-3 hours away from where I normally live. And the reason I'm in London is tomorrow I am flying to Seattle and spending a week on campus with Microsoft at the MVP Summit. So the MVP Summit is a collection, a gathering, if you like, of MVPs from around the world who gather in one place on campus for a week by invitation of Microsoft, and they spend the week talking to people at Microsoft, about all things Microsoft and about the tools and technologies that they have a particular interest in. That's kind of about as much as I can say, other than to say it's an awful lot of fun, it's very rewarding, very engaging. It's also an excellent chance to catch up with MVPs from around the world and also around your country that you don't get a chance to see that often. So it's going to be a blast. There's plenty of events happening. I will try and tweet those as much as I can. But yeah, it should be fun. The other interesting, exciting thing that's happening next week is that whilst I'm there, I'm going to meet up with Pat Richard, who runs the UCInsideTrack podcast, and we will be recording an episode together. So I am going to be on the next episode of UCInsideTrack podcast, which is very exciting. So yes, look out for that. I'm certainly looking forward to recording it with Pat. Should be a lot of fun. Yes, so that's me. I'm flying tomorrow afternoon. The plan originally was to drive up tomorrow morning, but because there's snow everywhere and that makes the cars go slow, I panicked at the last minute and came here the night before instead, which seems much more laid back and much nicer. So that's me for this week. I hope you have a great week next week. I hope the weather in the UK clears up whilst I'm away and I come back and it's spring. That would be lovely. But in the meantime, have a great weekend and I will speak to you next time.